With our 7-ish minutes together, we're going to talk about how leading for change takes grit. Generally speaking, grit stands for growth, taking on new challenges, resilience, always believing there's a path, there's a way, integrity, doing the right thing even when it's hard, and tenacity. And it does take these things. But I think these are rather generic and kind of sell leaders short in what it really takes to navigate and get through challenging, turbulent, changing times. I want to start my story of leading for change with an iceberg identity analogy. Based on this analogy, 13% of what we know about someone is above the waterline, easily identifiable on first introduction at first glance. What about that 87% below the waterline? That's where we find shared connection, build empathy. That's where we identify components of our identity that impact our day-to-day on a deeper level, that build a foundation for the things that we care about. That 87% holds the key to our passions and our motivations for driving change. So let me share some of my 87% with you to start to help you understand why I care so much about disability inclusion across our workplace and our communities. My interest in working in the disability space was sparked at a young age with my involvement in CRCC, and that bloomed into a passion for removing barriers to participation, which has led to my work in architectural accessibility with my company Assistology, with helping businesses create and implement strategy around disability inclusion with the Center for Disability Inclusion, and creating inclusive playground space in our busiest city park with Imagine Inclusion. I also live with migraines. I have a daughter who has ADHD. I have many friends and family who experience disability. I love hiking, dogs, plants. My favorite insect is a praying mantis, for real. Embracing the collective of my identity has helped me find success in endeavors that could have easily been abandoned because they were too hard, had too much resistance, were too outside of the box. I'm going to ask you to take a little journey back in time with me. In 2018, a woman I knew because our children were in an inclusive preschool together at CRCC made a comment on Facebook on how frustrated she was that there weren't inclusive playgrounds west of 84th Street in Omaha. Why did this matter to her or to me? Well, she has a son with spina bifida who uses mobility devices, and she has a daughter. And both of those kids have friends, including my kids. And there wasn't a playground within a 20-ish minute drive that was inclusive for the whole group to go together. So we met for coffee, and an idea was formed. I'm an engineer by training and by natural thought process, so I instinctually said, well, this is a problem. Problems have solutions. And we decided that our solution was to spearhead a fully inclusive playground in West Omaha at Zorinsky Lake. Why Zorinsky Lake? How many of you are in the OPS district? Millard? No, keep your hands up. OPS, Millard, Elkhorn, District 66. Each of those districts collectively has 15% of the students who are on IEPs or identified as having a disability. There are over 50 organizations in Omaha that work with individuals with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities. Some organizations that are disability-centric in their services, CRCC, Madonna Rehab, QLI, Children's Nebraska, Angel Guardians, Mosaic, Hands of Heartland, JP Lord, Madonna Ability Alliance, Monroe Meyer Institute, and that's just the beginning. Obviously, we couldn't do this on our own, and we didn't know what we didn't know. So Lauren had made some calls to the city. She chatted with a very friendly person in the department and found out that there was a playground at Zorinsky Lake that was more than 25 years old, outdated, not accessible, couldn't be repaired, needed to be replaced. So we met with a playground vendor who had done several inclusive playgrounds in the area. We asked about the process. We asked about working with the city. We asked about next steps. And they agreed to create a rendering for us so that we could show a vision of something tangible that could be at that site that we could meet with the city about, and we could start fundraising. Then we met with the city. And I wish we could say that they saw our vision right away, but this wouldn't be the story of a 7-year journey if that had been the case. We shared our vision. We shared why we thought this was so important for the community. We implored that the playgrounds were for more than children. They were a place of celebration, a place of gatherings for grandparents and parents who also had disabilities, that they allow siblings and friend groups to come together and play without worrying about someone being left out. But we got resistance, and not because they didn't like our idea, because they said we couldn't get it funded because it was in West Omaha. The perception of the philanthropic community was that there's enough money out in West Omaha that they don't need to invest in a project off of 156th and Center. We could have walked away. We didn't have a foundation to stand on, and it would have been easy to walk away. But leadership isn't easy. Leading for change is not easy. And not only did we want to see this playground come to fruition, but we wanted it to be a catalyst for change of how we look at how community spaces are designed. So I said, hold my seltzer. And we got to work to show people the need, the value, and the impact. We became incorporated as an organization the end of 2028. We kicked off our fundraising in the spring of 2019. Anyone remember the spring of 2019? Epic, historic flooding that devastated communities. So potential funding that we could have tapped into was reallocated to support and rebuild communities. Then 2020 came. Global pandemic, devastated communities. Money we could have tapped into was reallocated to help support communities devastated by the pandemic. Now, during this time, we didn't give up. We innovated. We tried to keep our project alive, keep people's minds, and continue to raise money. In 2020, society also gained a heightened appreciation for outdoor space. In October 2020, Lauren called me and said, I think we need to do a drive-through holiday lights display, something happy for the community that's physically, emotionally, financially accessible. This was the launch of Illuminate Inclusion, which became our annual community fundraiser for 5 years. On average, our net raised was around $8,000 or more, and it was a free will donation event. In 2021, we started to hit a stride in foundation gifts, community grants, corporate sponsorships. One of the biggest catalysts was when the Lozier Foundation embraced the vision, went outside of their normal giving area to send a message on how important this project was to the Omaha community. And they told us to leverage that gift with other foundations, because if they can fund something meaningful beyond 72nd, so can others. Then curveball. In 2021, our equipment vendor stopped carrying the equipment we designed the playground with. So not only did we need to redesign, but they also signed a playground non-compete for a year. So we needed a new equipment vendor. We found landscape structures and fell in love with the equipment they represent. We now had a socially inclusive wheelchair swing and a in-ground merry-go-round as part of as the design. And we were on track for a late 2023 completion. Curveball. Parks Department decided that they wanted to adjust the location of the playground within the park. This triggered a Corps of Engineers review, which took about 6 months. Along the way, we submitted grants, met with funders, held the annual Illuminate Inclusion event. We gained fellowship, followers, volunteers, kept the community involved. Front page story on Black Friday led us to the Quinn family, who became our single and highest individual donor and connected us to other funders. Come to August 3rd, 2025, 7 years nearly to the day of Imagine Inclusion becoming a thing, and we officially welcomed hundreds of people to come play and celebrate the newest inclusive playground in Omaha. And there have been a lot of impactful stories about this project, but one of my favorite is of a former Omaha firefighter who became paralyzed from illness 3 years ago and was on the playground playing with his 4-year-old twins, and shared that it was his first time since becoming paralyzed that he was able to fully play and engage with his kids on a playground. Whew, that is the most I have not choked up in this whole thing. So after 7 years of setbacks, curveballs, small wins that became big victories, I can say this: leading for change truly takes grit. But when we stay grounded in purpose, relentless in action, inclusive in vision, and committed to a transformative impact, it becomes not just about playgrounds, but about building communities where everyone belongs. Thank you.